So I'm gonna make this video because Oscar De La Hoya is losing his fucking mind, and I love it because the sport of boxing needs change right now, and it's needed change for a long time. But Oscar De La Hoya is nervous because he knows that TKO promotions and Zuffa are basically gonna take a hold of the sport. So let's listen to his bitch ass rant, and I'm gonna break it down for you why I disagree with him and why he's so nervous.
Need to beware. Don't be stupid. And speaking of scumbags,
Oh shit, what?
as many of you saw, the House of Representatives voted to approve the amendments made to the Muhammad Ali Revival Act, aka the bill TKO is trying to push through legislation so they can function just like the UFC and fuck fighters over.
The whole thing's a giant scam.
I'll say it again. The Muhammad Ali Act has been in place for 25 years, and there is zero reason to change it. But of course, Zuffa and TKO need to change it.
Why?
Because it's a total scam.
Because that's how they run their shady fucking business. Look, the good news is
All right, so let's start with this. First and foremost, boxing started declining 25 years ago. If you look at the heavyweight division, especially the American heavyweight division, because it used to be run by the United States. We used to run heavyweights. Isn't it interesting that around 2000, shit just started to disappear? We didn't see the Vander Holyfields. We didn't see the Michael Moores. We didn't see the David Tuas. We didn't see Tony Tucker. We didn't see the Cowies. All that exceptional talent of the 90s just got blotted out 25 years ago. And around the 2000s. We're at 2026. So at 2001, shit started to decline. Isn't that interesting? Second, Oscar De La Hoya is not there for Virgil Ortiz. He's not there because he wants to see the great fights. He's fucking there for his own business. He wants to make a lot of money, and he knows that right now shit is changing. 10 or 15 years ago, a lot of fighters were scared to losing their undefeated record because Floyd Mayweather Jr. outsmarted Oscar, and Oscar realized that, so he used Canelo in order to outsmart the sport of boxing and make a lot of money. And that actually helped a lot of the prize fighters who are not looking for risk. But this fucked over fighters who were taking risk, who were losing fights. I'm going to give you an example. Jojo Diaz is a fighter who's willing to take all the fights. But he's going to lose because when you step up to dangerous fights, you're going to lose fights. Stephen Fulton, same shit. He took all the fights he had to take, and in the process, he lost. Rayo Valenzuela, same thing. Any fighter that is taking fights who loses is nowadays called a bum. Back in the 90s, it was more like the UFC. If you lost fights, nobody gave a shit. You still saw good fights. Whether it was with Tony Tubbs, whether it was with Orlin Norris, it didn't. Mike Weaver had a lot of losses. Everybody liked Mike Weaver, right? It didn't matter. It just didn't matter. But now the model is changing, and he knows that his time is near. That's why they're all getting together, finally trying to make these great fights. Why do you think they're going to the zone? It's not just Golden Boy, it's also Top Rank too. Because they're losing the war. The shit they try to pull in the past is not working right now. Guillermo Rigondeaux should have been promoted the right way. We would have seen great things from Guillermo Rigondeaux. Shakur Stevenson at one point, Terence Crawford should have been promoted the right way. but nobody gave a shit. But these boxers back in the 90s, just by fighting and not all these promotional bullshit, deals and making money, undefeated records, those fighters would have been great at that time too. So what Oscar is saying is complete bullshit.
Still needs to pass through the Senate, who I had a very meaningful conversation with last week, and they even invited me to Washington, D.C. later this month to be a part of their hearing. Look, they won't be pulling any sneaky shit like they did in the House with their quick secret vote they did this week, trying to keep it away from the public and anybody.
Like you with your spatula, where you dressed up like a chick, faggot.
Who wanted to speak the truth. Only one representative was allowed to speak his mind.
HR 4624, which I also opposed in committee along with 3 other members.
My next question is, where the fuck is all the boxing media?
They just sold out.
Already?
Our rights are being threatened by corporate fucking pigs. So why isn't anybody reporting on the secret meeting and the agenda? Why are you all so fucking quiet? Because you've been bought off?
Let's get access.
Makes me fucking sick. Zuffa wants to function as their own boxing organization, honoring only their fucking ballsack Zuffa belt and the ring belt, which is now meaningless. They make up their own rankings, and they're about to start breaking their own rules.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Look, May 18.
This guy is so delusional. Media coverage. There's great fighters who are taking a lot of risks right now. Like Gary Antoine Russell, he's taking tough risks. Sebastian Fundora, who started with Gervonta Clark and taking tough opposition in the beginning of his career, never really got too much media coverage. And when he lost against Brian Mendoza, everybody abandoned the shit because he lost his undefeated record. So there's a lot of fighters who are taking a lot of risk and they're not getting any media coverage, and you, motherfucker, are not talking about it. Because in the end of the day, you were the one trying not to make the fight between Cepeda against Shakur Stevenson because you were scared. Because you knew that Shakur Stevenson was skillful enough to beat the shit out of him and outbox him. And that's what happened. But because Cepeda pulled through and he wanted the fight happened. You didn't want the fight between Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis. Ryan wanted the fight. And I'm not a big fan of Ryan, but he wanted the fight. You wanted to keep, inflating Ryan Garcia so you can make more money. Because in the end of the day, all you want to do is you want to inflate these boxers so they don't take tough opposition. You don't want them to lose. And then eventually, when, it's like, come on, bro, are you going to fight somebody big? You want to make that last fight so they can make all the money. So you fuck over all the boxing fans, the real boxing fans, not the casuals, the escorts, because they care about boxers' wallets and shit. They talk about their money like they're prostitutes and stuff. You, sir, are a piece of shit. So don't talk about the media, because you yourself are not giving credit or not telling other fighters who are taking risk, saying they should make more money. And you don't want to make the best fights. Jaron Ennis, despite what nobody says, was trying to make that fight with Virgil Ortiz. And Virgil wanted that fight as well. But you got in the middle because what you asking for, what you told Jaron Ennis that you would take money out of him if he lost, only a sucker would say some shit like that. Because you know that Virgil Ortiz would not be favorite against Jaron Ennis. So they try to do reach around. And now they're getting sued for it. And who? Your company. You're the one who is trying to fight back. Because it bit you in the ass. And I would not be surprised if Virgil leaves with TKO Promotions. And don't talk about rankings, motherfucker. Do not talk about rankings. Because a lot of these rankings And these organizations like the WBO, who's pro Puerto Rico, just look how they elevated Sandor Sayas without even taking a top 10 opponent. How they elevate a lot of these Mexican fighters in the WBC. They are corrupt as fuck. And you are talking at how the UFC is making their rankings? Are you an idiot? Oh, it's got to be the spatula. They hit you too many times in the face with it. Whatever they did to you, bro. That's stupid. What are you talking about? They make their own rankings. The fucking WB on the WB, they make their own rankings. They make their own weird ass belts. They're making their interim belts. They're making these diamond belts. Fucking the battle of Acapulco and shit belts. And you're saying that there's something wrong with Zuffa because they have one belt. They're trying to make less divisions, which actually is going to help too. Less weight classes. That's what we need. We need what happened back in the 50s, the National Boxing Association. That was our national belt. And we could make a world championship out of it too. That's what we need. We need one belt. We don't need 4. We don't need 10. These interim titles and all this bullshit. And more titles and more titles. I didn't see you protest against that either. Because it benefited you, pussy. That's what it is. So don't talk about that shit, bro. It just pisses me off. Especially, I'm a boxing historian, and I know what's up with that.
For 2 years since Jairo Batay has fought an opponent ranked in the top 5.
A lot of cats.
So will they follow their own rules and strip him of the title?
No.
Or will Turkey just change the rules?
Bingo.
They already make up their own rankings. They put in Brandon Blanton at number 10.
Believe this shit?
This is what you're getting into with Zuffa. Made up belts,
On a belt?
made up rankings, and made up rules. Might as well be its own fucking reality show. As I've said, the ring integrity, history, and honor are dead at the bottom of Lake.
Integrity, history, and honor. Bro, you need to go to a cornfield, put your pants down, go backwards, bro. History and honor. Shut the fuck up, you weirdo. History, you have none of that shit, you snake.
I mean, next to Max Kellerman's career. They are literally coming into boxing to do the same thing they do to the UFC fighters. Most of those guys can barely afford basic expenses.
Gun Tay.
And now they see Uncle Fester and Zuffa bragging about how Conor Ben is being paid $15 million for a fight. I can't even imagine how upset the UFC fighters are right now.
It's not something.
But boxing is a sport that's worldwide. In England, boxing is considered the second largest sport. And in England, they actually don't need the American market because they got their own fucking pay-per-views, you dumbass. So, if he's making 15 million, but now you're saying that you don't like that because boxers need more money, you yourself are contradicting yourself, you dumbass. You are saying that boxers need more money. So they're giving 15 million to Conor Ben because they can afford it. And you're against that? In fact, if it wasn't for the Arabs, if it wasn't for Turki Al-Sheikh, we would have not seen in the past 3 or 4 years a lot of the great fights we've seen. He put a lot of money and a lot of investment. And like I said, he wanted you to fight. He pushed you. You didn't want it. He wanted you to make the fight between Cepeda and Shakur Stevenson. And you were like, yeah, okay. Stick a finger up my ass. Give me a second to think about it. You said yes, and then you pulled out. You didn't want the fight. Cepeda wanted the fight. You didn't want the fight. Virgil wanted to fight with Jaron. Okay? And you didn't want it. You didn't want that fight. All this mess happened because you came with a stupid ass deal that you know Jaron would not accept. And you're talking about money. Listen. Do UFC fighters get paid less? Yes, they do. But here's the problem. when you look overall at the sport of boxing, it's just bigger than UFC. That's why they'll never make that same amount of money. It's just common sense. UFC has been growing worldwide, but people like boxing more. In UFC, they do boxing. Boxers don't use Muay Thai or grappling or anything because it's not popular, and boxing has been there for more than 100 years, more than 200 years almost. So, of course, they're going to make less money. But how fair is it, though? For example, if you tell me, what would you rather watch? Edgar Berlanga versus Canelo Alvarez, who made around 700,000 pay-per-views, or would I rather watch Andy Hiraoka versus Gary Antoine Russell? Give me the Gary Antoine Russell, Andy Hiraoka. That's a tough-ass fight. If we talk about toughness and risking, that's a tough-ass fight. Canelo versus that clown of, both are clowns, to be honest with you, versus that Edgar Berlanga guy, it's garbage. It's a garbage fight. It's commercial. But it's not a real fight. So what you're afraid of in the end is that boxers who might be losing now might get more attention because you're so addicted to that undefeated record, whether you want to recognize it or not. You don't want your Latino fighters to lose against American fighters. That's the facts right there. You want to talk facts? Thursday clapback shit? That's the fact. You don't want your Latino fighters to lose against a lot of the American fighters. That's the truth. How is it fair for Ryan Garcia, who is this white dude, right, who pretends to be Mexican? He's not really Mexican. He's from California. How is it fair that he's making all this fucking money? Even if when he loses, he makes a lot of money, because he's a white guy, and it's just it's how the market works. A lot of people just I guess they want to be white. But then you have Stephen Fulton, Lamont Roach, Jojo Diaz, Rayo Valenzuela taking these tough ass fights. They lose, and they don't get the same attention because you don't want. And these promotional companies, they don't want to promote it because once they lose, they abandon them. But that's not going to happen with Zuffa because it's going to be reminiscent of the National Boxing Association days of the 90s when boxers had a lot of losses and you still watch fights. You still watch the fights. It didn't matter who fought. Every week they saw fights. And by the way, dumbass, fucking tranny boy, lady boy, why did HBO, Showtime, and the rest of them leave the market? Why can't you fight U.S. television to broadcast your fights? Because they don't trust your model, you idiot. That's why. They don't trust you anymore. HBO was smart. They took the fuck off. They didn't see no future in boxing. They did see it in the 90s, though, before that Muhammad Ali Revival Act happened 25 years ago. Start to change everything. So, Showtime left. They all left. Nobody wants to work with you, asshole. Because they know they're going to lose money. They know you're not going to give them the good fights. So now that Turki started to revolutionize boxing and making the good fights, now you're scared. But I'm excited. Because I'm looking at the 90s, and I'm going to be honest with you. It's not fair that Canelo makes $100 million. I don't give a fuck how popular he is when you got other boxers who are taking risks without putting rehydration clauses, without selecting opponents, just taking tough fights constantly, like back in the 90s. And they're losing, and they get abandoned. But you're protecting those fighters. You're not protecting those fighters, bro. You're protecting your own interest. So you're full of shit. And honestly, I'm gonna tell you another thing. You see, this is what Oscar don't want to tell you. I'm gonna be honest with you. The moment a lot of these Latino fighters start fighting American talent and American fighters, or just worldwide, America is going to dominate again. The US is going to dominate again. So what is the best way to avoid the domination, to keep kind of, inflating your record? Is to avoid American fighters in the end. That's what it is. And he knows that. He knows that Mexican fighters in general are not going to be most of the American fighters, the elite ones. You got, Armando Resendiz, he beat, Caleb Plant. That's great, but will he beat Diego Pacheco? I don't think so. Will he beat David Benavidez? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. So that's the reason why. And he knows that. His whole stable won't be gold plated. They will be silver plated. So I'm all up for Zuffa. They're trying to change boxing. Suddenly all these promotional companies are waking up saying, oh my God, what's going on? We got to unite and make the best fights. Why didn't you do that before, bro? We lost a lot of good fights. And if it wasn't for the Arabs, right now boxing will be fucking garbage right now, bro. Garbage. All the major TV and all the major TVs, they left under Oscar's promotional and Bob Arum's promotional companies. Many of these great fighters, they weren't even promoted the right way. And he's talking all this shit. Well, the UFC will promote these fighters. We'll give them a fair share. And at the same time, they will fuck you and the old guard because y'all suck. Peace out. Give us a like, subscribe, and be part of our community here in Golden Era. Peace out.